What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another video. And today I just wanted to share with you three sample libraries that I think are a bit under the radar for most people. If you know of them, awesome, you're in the loop. If not, I hope this video will kind of share these libraries with you and why, to me, they're kind of like secret weapons, ones that maybe are a bit underutilized or maybe just don't have enough recognition at the moment. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a sense of why I like these libraries, how I would use them, and so on and so forth. So before we really dive into that, though, in case you want my entire recommendation list of my sample libraries, I've actually prepared a free guide, a PDF that goes over all of my personal recommendations, and it's my sample library buyer's guide. I want to give it to you 100% free. If you want to click the first link in the description box below, it'll take you straight there where you can grab it, and I hope it's valuable to you because I've put basically all my favorites, like I said, plus I consistently update it with the basically my favorite libraries that come out, and I'll add them to the list and I'll send you the latest versions as they come out. So you can grab it again 100% free. It's my gift to you for checking out this video today, and I hope it's useful for you. So let's kind of dive in. The very first library that you can see here is Atomic Big Band. Now, just as a little bit of context, this library and these other ones here as well, these are created by Straight Ahead Samples, and they're a relatively new developer in the jazz realm. And they've created these jazz sample libraries that are really catered to the jazz idiom, but what separates them from the rest is their innovative smart delay technology. So this in particular allows the script to analyze your performance, introduce a 4-beat delay, but then recreate a performance that is so much more realistic than if you performed it in real time. So let me show you an example. If I just play a couple of notes here, I'm just going to play, okay? This is the legato articulation in the patch, and it sounds decent, right? So have a listen. Right, so definitely it sounds like a MIDI trumpet, even though you get that, the nice loud velocities and the performance is there. This is the lead trumpet, so they kind of play those louder dynamics. But what I'm gonna do is turn on smart delay, and then I'm gonna play. You're not gonna hear anything right away, but after 4 beats, you're gonna hear that performance spit back. So have a listen to this. Right, so even though there's a little bit of a delay, suddenly the performance just springs to life. And if you close your eyes, you can really imagine there's a real player. They have all those little nuances in the performance that you just don't get in sample libraries nowadays. So this script is just super smart. Like, again, there's basically 2,000 samples per note, and the script takes its time to analyze your performance, all the mod wheel data, all of the velocities, the notes you're playing, the length of those MIDI notes that you're playing, and it spits out this performance that usually 9 times out of 10 sounds great. And then all you need to do is kind of go in and then rearrange some of those notes if you want to, maybe extend some of them, tweak the velocities if maybe the performance isn't sounding exactly perfect. But just the fact that we have this technology available is so cool. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the rest of the jazz lineup, but also expanding into the orchestral realm and seeing what they do with strings and woodwinds and so on and so forth, how that might be possible in the context of maybe a larger scoring stage. But anyway, that's kind of the first library I wanted to share with you, is the Atomic Big Band, but also the corresponding jazz libraries, Birth of the Trumpet, Tenor Colossus, the Eminent Trombone, the Clarinet en Rose. These are all dedicated soloist libraries that kind of cater to the softer side of jazz music. So Atomic Big Band is meant for like the loud side of the big band when they're blaring out. So really, really cool stuff. The second library is actually a really an older one, and recently they've actually updated to, I think they call it Orchestral Chords, and this is by Cinesamples. So I just haven't bothered to update just yet, but I still want to show it to you because I use it pretty much in every cue that I write, almost every cue, and it just is like magic. So have a listen. The library comes with these 4 patches: Vivaldi tremolo, low chords, 2D chords, and 2D octaves. So I just want to share my 2 favorites with you. These are the low chords, and they're basically separated into keys. So E major, C major, right? B major. So depending on, what note you're actually playing, you're going to get that corresponding chord in that major or minor key. A major, B flat major, and then up an octave you get first inversion of those same major chords. But just that warm quality you get, it's really hard to replicate that with sample libraries if you were to bring in patches individually. And then above that, we start to get minor chords in root position. And then above that, first inversion. And that's basically it for the low chords. So I would have also loved second inversion, maybe a couple other chord types for these low chords. But yeah, the fact that we already have, root position first inversion in major and minor is fantastic. And I also love that you're able to go from one chord to another, and the scripted legato basically takes care of the transition for you. Whereas in Orchestral Tools layers, there is no legato. It's polyphonic, so you have to make sure you lift up your finger properly at the right time before playing the next note. Whereas for this library, you can play legato and the script will handle that for you. And then also we have the Vivaldi tremolo patch, which is basically just tremolos, but in like octaves. Right, super intense and very, very bright, and I just love that. The main application for this patch would be if I'm like writing a cue that has a climax or a certain crescendo to a new section. I will use this Vivaldi tremolo to kind of layer in under the crescendo of everything else. So it adds that texture that you don't necessarily hear in the front, but it kind of is felt behind everything else. So I just love this for that. And then, yeah, for the low chords, I'll use it for that foundation. If I have this maybe really warm melody on top and I just want that orchestral bed underneath, and I don't need them doing that much, but it just adds that subtle bed of warmth in the orchestra, this patch is perfect for that. Okay. And then the third and final library is actually not hosted in Kontakt. It's actually an Orchestral Tools library, and it is Tableau Solo Strings. So let's see here. Tableau Solo Strings comes with a violin, viola, and cello. The viola being my favorite. And let's take a look at the articulations. Pretty much identical across the board, as you can see. So the viola is my favorite because of the legato performance. If you know me and my style of writing, I like a lot of melodic pieces. I write a lot of stuff that is maybe a little bit more ballad, a bit more mellow in general. In addition to my, Super Mario Galaxy style pieces. But yeah, let me show you the viola first and why it's so beautiful. So here we go, viola. We'll just solo it up here. So yeah, it really is those legato transitions, and the fact that we get each subsequent note that does not begin the vibrato right away. It kind of eases into the vibrato. So there's a very subtle musicality there that you don't quite get in a lot of sample libraries, which is really, really nice. Couple little things that kind of bug me. Number one is that there's no infinite bow option. So I'm not able to say like, oh, hold this note for as long as I want before I want to re-trigger the bow change. That would have been really, really nice to be able to do that. And yeah, so sometimes, if I'm holding a longer note, like a sustained note, it just kind of rebows in the middle of the note when I wouldn't want it to. So that's an update I would love to see for this library. Number two, there is no option to choose either a bow change legato or just a slurred change, like the same bow stroke. So what results what happens actually is that when you're playing a performance, I believe every single legato transition is a bow change. So it goes in the opposite direction, which means that sometimes the legato line can feel a bit abrupt, especially if you're in the middle of the phrase. If you bow change every single note, then it kind of feels a bit zigzaggy, right? The line. So that's the other thing that I would love to be able to choose from. But I guess maybe they just didn't record those samples. So what can you do? But the actual tone, the musicality, the warmth from the instrument is just so beautiful. And I just love the playability, how natural it feels under the fingers. And it's really, really nice. Let me show you a bit more of the viola, and then I'm going to move to the cello and the violin, which again share kind of many of the same similar features, but the musicality is just a hair different. It's not quite as connected, all those transitions, and the vibrato kind of comes a little quick for sometimes some of the notes. You'll see what I mean. So here's a bit more of the viola. So. Right, so you hear how it's very connected, very smooth. But yeah, you do hear that rebow quite frequently when you hold that same note. And this is also only one dynamic layer, so you don't have to worry about any phasing between the dynamic layers. It's just one dynamic layer, basically. Okay, let's move on to the cello. So here we go. Yeah, so for me, the cello has a bit less depth in the vibrato. I would have loved an even more musical vibrato in that performance overall. But yeah, the viola just has a bit more waver in the vibrato, even though it's very controlled. It has that depth in the vibrato that just sounds so musical, and I really, really like it. Not to mention like the cello itself. I mean, it's a great sound and everything, but yeah, it's the transitions are good, the sound is great, but the vibrato is a little bit tame for my liking. And then finally, we have the violin. Yeah, so I think a couple of the legato transitions are blurring a little bit in the high end there, where the viola, legato transitions are programmed very, very cleanly. So some of the transitions here in the violin are just a little bit dirtier, a little bit muddy. And then the vibrato kind of either comes in a bit too early sometimes or a tad too late. So it's a little more difficult to find that consistency in a longer melodic line, in my opinion, for this particular instrument. But look, I think every library has its own strengths, it has its own weaknesses, what it comes with and what it doesn't. In this case, for me and for a lot of people who own this library, I think they agree the viola is kind of the standout in terms of the melodic lines. The other articulations, I believe, are pretty consistent across these three different instruments. But for me personally, I tend to use the legato the most in these types of libraries, especially if they come with it and it sounds really musical. So yeah, this is the third and final library I wanted to share with you. That viola is just gorgeous, and I used it actually in my piece Love's Rapture. If you listen to the first minute or so, this is the solo instrument that I used in that piece. So there we go. Those are the three libraries. Number one is Atomic Big Band and basically all the straight ahead samples, horn libraries. Number two is CineOrch, now known as Orchestral Chords by Cinesamples, and third and finally is the Tableau Solo Strings. No particular order, but these are three libraries that I think are a bit underrepresented, maybe a bit under the radar, and I wanted to share them with you in today's video to hopefully shed some light on them and give you some insights into how they work and how they sound. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe you don't own any of these libraries. Would you consider picking one up? Or maybe you already own one or more of these libraries. Are you proud to see it's shown and, all that? Let me know what you think about these libraries in the comments below. And of course, if you don't have my sample library buyer's guide yet and you want to take a look at the rest of my recommendation list, then I want to give that to you absolutely free. Again, it's a very concise but comprehensive PDF guide that goes over all of my favorites, including all the orchestral sections, but there's also like jazz libraries, ethnic libraries, piano libraries, and so on and so forth that really just covers the entire spectrum. So if you're looking for my thoughts on a library, or even if that library is included in the guide, then I want to give it to you totally free. So if you want to click the first link in the box below, it'll take you straight there. You can grab it as my gift to you for checking out this video today. Thank you again. I'll catch you in the next one and see you soon. Bye-bye.